This Restorative Justice Life is a production of Amplify RJ. Follow us on all social media platforms at Amplify RJ, sign up for our email list, and check out our website at amplifyrj.com to stay up to date on everything we have going on. Make sure you're subscribed to this feed on whatever platform you're listening on right now so you don't miss an episode. And finally, we'd love it if you left us a rating and review. It really helps us literally amplify this work. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to This Restorative Justice Life, the podcast that explores how the philosophy, practices, and values of restorative justice apply to our everyday lives. I'm your host, David Ryan Barcega Castro Harris, all 5 names for the ancestors, and I'm the founder of Amplify RJ. On this podcast, I talk with RJ practitioners, circle keepers, and others doing this work about how this way of being has impacted their lives. Today is Thanksgiving, and wherever you are, I hope you've taken time to learn more about the full history of this holiday, and of course that you're celebrating safely. Since I can't be with either of my granddads today, I thought I'd share a conversation with someone who's played a similar role in my life. Shedrick Sanders is unlike anyone I've ever met. On numerous occasions, he's shared with me that when he was young, his goal was to be the old guy who had so many outrageous stories that no one would believe him. I'll let you be the judge of that. He's only known the word restorative justice since the year 2000, but from his childhood in his self-described African village on the south side of Chicago to classrooms all across the world, Shedrick has been making peace for over 70 years. Our paths crossed as we worked together doing restorative justice work in Chicago public schools, and I have been so blessed to have been able to learn from and play alongside him. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Shedrick. Welcome, Shedrick. Who are you?
I'm a father.
Who are you?
I'm a grandfather.
Who are you?
I'm an elder.
Who are you?
I'm crazy.
Who are you?
I'm a husband.
Who are you?
I'm a peacemaker.
I think this is the 7th one. Who are you?
I'm a fun lover.
You are all of those things and more, Shedrick. It's been a huge privilege of my life to get to know you over the last couple years. Do you remember exactly when it was that we met?
I guess it might have been at a meeting for the alternatives when you first came on board, I guess.
Oh, so my memory precedes yours. And maybe we didn't officially meet until then, but I definitely saw you and played with you at Circle for Circle Keepers down at Precious Blood. One of those times, you bringing in one of your toys and sharing that with the group. So my first memory of you was definitely who is this guy? Who's this fun-loving? And I think for anyone who ever meets you, fun-loving might be one of the first things that they ever think about, because whenever you walk into the room, you're carrying that light with you, and whether that light is in the form of juggling balls or one of those wooden toys that you're trying to connect with kids with. It's very present. So, but yes, we did really get to know each other when we were working together at Alternatives, doing restorative justice work. But you've been doing this work a lot longer than you even knew the word restorative justice. So, in your own words, how would you describe how you got into this work broadly?
Oh, it's fascinating, really. It actually started with my mother. And the kids that she used to have in the house. She used to take care of kids, and there'd be kids in the house, and I'd come home from school and see them and take them to the playground and do things with them. And I always had this kind of stress when I was around kids, hey, I got to watch them. They got to take care of them. Something will happen to them. And I always had this stress, but I'd take them to the playground, do things with them. And then one day I was feeling bad. I was feeling bad one day. And this little boy, Joey, came in and said, "Can we go out and play? Go out and play." I said, "Joey, I feel terrible. I feel terrible." He put his hand on my head and he says, "Oh, okay. I'll go back. I'll come back later." I said, "Okay, good." And I fell asleep, and he came back, and I opened my eyes. He was standing up there at the head of the bed, looking at me. And he said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, well, you just rest now. You rest." I'm thinking, wait a minute. This kid's taking care of me. I said, I ain't got to worry about these kids. They take care of me.
How old were you at this time?
I must have been about 18,
Oh, okay.
19, something like that. And so I just started just relaxing around kids and just having a good time. And I was also learning how to play the recorder. So I was playing with them, doing that. And just found that I just enjoyed being around the kids a lot. So at school, they also let me be a tutorer. My scores got real high, and they finally allowed me to talk to people and become a tutor. So, and I used to fight a lot when I was in elementary school, but I felt so bad, and my grandmother told me to count from 10 backwards whenever I got upset, and I started doing that, and things started changing. I didn't have to fight no more. So from there, I just started working with kids a lot. I just started figuring out ways to work with kids. And I wanted to be a teacher, but I did not like the way kids were treated in school. So I consider myself a street teacher. Out on the street, I see kids, me doing all kind of things with them. And I read this book called Teacher Effectiveness Training. And it talked about circles, I statements, active listening, a process for resolving problems and conflict. And it said, it's not your class, it's our class. And that really agreed with me, that I didn't have to be the tyrant. I didn't have to be the boss. I could be part of the class. And I got away from saying a teacher is more of a facilitator of learning. So I started doing that. And I started substitute teaching. And I'd bring origami into the classroom. I'd bring juggling and all kind of crazy stuff. And I say this is a party. My classroom's a party. And I bring albums. And I ask them, where's the record player? And I put the record player on. And I put on music like Sly Stone and different stuff. And I put this music on. And I said, look, you can do your work. Here's the work that your teacher left for you to do. It's a whole list of stuff here. And you could do anything that you want to do on this list. And when you want to take a break or stuff, go dance. And then come back and do the work. But come through me every now and then just to check and see how it works. And it was phenomenal. I had this one class one time. It was like 12 kids before lunch. This was during the time we had 9 to 12, and they went for lunch for an hour, and they came back. With these kids, it was 12 in the morning. In the afternoon, it was 30. I said, whoa, what happened here? So we heard y'all was having a good time up in here, so we decided to come to school. I said, oh, okay, good. And I asked some people who had snuck out of other classes to come in there. And we were jamming, having a good time. I said, this is how school's supposed to be. People are supposed to want to come and have fun and learn something at the same time. So then I went off to Brazil, and I had gotten a degree in engineering with an elementary school minor. And I had taken things like children's literature. I've taken music for education majors. I took art for education majors. And all the teachers really liked me and said I should be in teaching because I acted like a kid. They put a lump of clay in front of me and I smack it. They said, that's what you're supposed to do. Look at it, smack it. So I had a good time with that. But I still hadn't taken the teacher path. So I went to Ghana. I went to Brazil. And on the way to Brazil, it took 7 months to get there. And I met all kinds of people. And all the kids were attracted to me. And I had a recorder like that I had been taught how to use in my music education class. And I'd be playing little things like Michael Roll Your Boat Ashore, Puff the Magic Dragon, Primitivo, all kind of songs. And people would come around and listen to it, and kids would come, they'd take me home, and the parents would feed me and everything. It's like, dang, that's what I should be a teacher. So I went back to Chicago. I went to my music teacher's class and told her about my experience with the recorder, which is a whole nother story, this thing with the recorder. And she let me talk to her class about it. And she said, Shedrick, you should join Teacher Corps. I said, okay. She said, the office is down the hall. Oh, okay. So I went to the office. It was closed. But I knocked on the door and somebody was in there. They let me in. I said, I want an application for Teacher Corps. They said, yeah. But the program's closed. I said, give me an application anyway. He found a tore-up application. I took it. I filled it out, sent it in. And they sent me a letter 2 weeks later saying, come to Tampa, Florida for a Teacher Corps Peace Corps program, earn a master's in science education and a teacher certificate, and go to Ghana as a Peace Corps volunteer. And it was amazing. I had written those 3 things down as my goals before that happened.
What 3 things?
Go to Ghana, get certified to teach, and get a master's. I'd written those 3 things down. And when that invitation came, I said, I'm gone. So in Ghana, I really got to put into practice a lot of this stuff that I've been working with. We'd circle up. I take the first 2 weeks was all dealing with conflict resolution, I statements, active listening, how we're going to treat each other, team activities, getting to know each other really well, name games. I got to know about, at one point, I might have got to know about 90 kids' names in one day. Mm-hmm. Playing name games, which kept repeating all the time. And they come back in the next day. I said, oh, Kwame, how you doing? Oh, you remember my name? Oh, yeah, I remember your name. And so that really got me into the more the facilitator mode. And the Ghanaians fought me tooth and nail. The kids, they fought me. And they thought that I was trying to impose American-style teaching on them. And they wanted me to lecture and write notes on the board. And I wanted them to do the problem. I said, hey, this is math. This is a participatory thing. We do math. And they would leave the room, go to the assistant headmaster's office, and complain. And I'd go down there and say, can I come in? And say, no, we don't want you to come in yet. And so they talked to me, and then they'd come and talk to me. And they were basically doing a restorative conversation with both of us. And allow me to vent, allow them to vent. And then they'd bring us together to work out a solution. I said, oh, man, these folks got it. They got it down pat. And this happened to me several times. And I really started paying attention and learning what they were doing. And so I said, these people know this stuff. So when I came back, I went to Ghana, then I went to Western Samoa. In Western Samoa, now I've been doing yoga all the time, and I always taught my kids yoga and meditation. But in Samoa, I learned transcendental meditation, and I had my class taught transcendental meditation, and that freaked them out. They got the highest scores in the country, and it wasn't because I taught them any math. I just taught them how to relax, so that the math would come out of them. So I had gotten really good at it by then. So by the time I got back to the States, I was a Peace Corps recruiter, so I didn't teach. But then I went to Pakistan, and I was doing the same kind of things in Pakistan, and it was working real well. And then when I got back to North Carolina, when my wife wanted to go to school in North Carolina, I got to North Carolina, and I was teaching and substituting and stuff. And I passed by this place called the Dispute Settlement Center. And I said, what are they doing there? So I walked in there and asked them. And what it was, a center that was set up that trained volunteer mediators from the community. And they also went to the courts with volunteer mediators. And anytime a case can be mediated, the judge would send it to them. And at the center, people can refer people in any situation. They have a problem with their neighbor, they can come down, and the center would contact the neighbor, let them know what was going on, and tell them about mediation, and they would come down, and 2 volunteer mediators would mediate for them. So I said, ooh, this is fantastic. I want to do that. And they say, and we also train kids in nonviolent conflict resolution techniques. And by the way, our youth program coordinator is leaving, and we're looking for somebody to take her place. I said, that's my job. I can do the conflict resolution without worrying about the math, because it is math anyway. So I did. I said, give me that job. That's my job. And they gave it to me. And they trained me. They trained me as a mediator, a facilitator, a meetings facilitator, kind of a victim offender mediator. And they got to the point where they started using me on the difficult cases. I said, oh, no kidding. And
what were some of the things they were teaching you in there?
Oh, well, basically active listening, how to take what somebody's saying basically and turn it into an I statement for them. So you listen for what their feelings were, and you start off with this, what happened? Restorative conversation. What happened? How did it make you feel? What did you feel about it? What concerns you the most about it? And what do you need? And they would go down that pattern. And then we determine whether they really needed a mediation. We bring them together and mediate. We try to get the demographics. You know, if it's a black and white guy, we try to get a black and white mediators. If it was a male, female, we try to get a male, female, you know, that kind of thing. And I saw some fantastic stuff, especially with the marriage situations where they would come in and they may have divorced already, but they want to get the custody thing right. And we had people, they got up from the table and said, damn, if we had done this, we wouldn't have got divorced. If we had mediated, we wouldn't have got divorced. Because they found out what they were really needing, but wasn't able to communicate to each other. But in mediation, they talk to the mediators first, and the mediator kind of translates for them. And it can get pretty complicated because some people talk in terms of how they feel, and other people may talk in terms of what they see, and you have to kind of pick up on that and change it. Which she saw anger. She saw this. She said, oh. And so you do all that. And it was just phenomenal. My goal was to expose every child in Orange County to nonviolent conflict resolution techniques. Well, not necessarily to train them, but to let them see it, let them know it exists. And I was free to go everywhere. And there's a lady, Miss Thompson, who's on the board. She paid my salary. She paid the position salary, pension, vacation, everything. She even made a bag for me to carry my posters in. And so I didn't have to worry about anything. And I just had a ball. And then it was situations where, it's one situation just was phenomenal to me. It was a school in Hillsborough, North Carolina. There was a group of kids from the projects who was driving the school crazy. And a lot of them from the same family. It was about 12 of them, I think. And they called me in and said, what can you do with these kids? I said, look it. Give them to me for 5 days in a row. All day. What? I said, all day. 5 days in a row, all day. I said, dang. And don't tell them what it's for. Just tell them they're coming in with me. And they came in, and the first 3 days, we did nothing but play. Group juggle, this, that, all kind of tag, all kind of stuff. And then we went into the conflict resolution piece. And they got into it. And then we did that, can we talk baseball? And I was screaming and yelling at them and stuff. And they was eating it up. And it was this little bitty girl. She must have been about second grade or something. And I'm towering over and I'm screaming at her and stuff. And she says, "Can we talk baseball? Can we talk about this?" And they had videoed this thing. And they used that for fundraising for years. That little girl saying, "Can we talk about this?" And when I left, the feedback came back to me that these kids had become playground mediators without even the title or the training for it. They had learned this conflict resolution techniques, and they started seeing people having conflicts on the playground. And because they had the skills, they would go in and help them. In the next year, they weren't a problem anymore. They were an absolute asset to the school. See, and so there were some schools that would have me come and train mediators in the school and train the teachers. And it was this one particular principal who swore by it. And he moved to Chapel Hill. He brought his secretary with him because his secretary was a trained mediator. And by the time when people came to his office upset, she was able to calm them down. And then in his office, he had a refrigerator with drinks and stuff. He had stuffed animals all on the floor. Because he said when an angry parent comes, they usually have an angry child in tow. Mm-hmm. So let them. So that's where I got my official start in North Carolina.
That mediation, right? And I think even with the training that they gave you with I statements and reflecting back those feelings to people, when you went in with those kids for those first 5 days, the first thing that you did was play with them. Mm-hmm. Why is that important?
Because relationship is everything. Building the team, building a relationship. That's the thing. So it's like in Ghana they talk about it. They had a different phrase for it, but it's like a term I heard recently is like, if a child doesn't feel part of the community, they will burn it down. See?
Say that again.
If a child doesn't feel a part of the community, they will burn it down. So the thing is to bring all the kids in, make them feel it's a part of the community. In Ghana, they had a different phrase for it, but it was similar like that. You know, and every child is yours. You got to take care of them. You got to look after them. So, in Ghana, I saw it. I saw this at work, and that's been my vision. That's one of the things that made me realize this could work, no matter how frustrated I may get. I saw little kids in Ghana mediating. I saw them mediate with older kids. I saw them mediate with adults. I've seen young kids come and say, "Can you move? Can you go over here? Can you go over here? Come over here. Come over here. So go talk to him. Talk to him." And I said, "What?" And I had a situation. This was interesting. I was in Ghana. They sell boiled eggs, and the women had these big old trays of boiled eggs stacked up in a pyramid on top of their head, balancing it. And people stand in a long line to get these eggs. She'd take an egg off, she'd peel it, slice it open, put some pepper sauce in it, tomato sauce, and give it to you. And you pay her. So I was standing behind one of my seniors, and he said some bad things to the girl and wouldn't pay her. And I said, "Dad, this is really out of character because Ghanaians don't usually act like this. I don't know what's going on." So I asked him, I said, "What's happening?" "Don't be talking to me, don't talk to me." I said, whoa, wait now. I said, "Well, let's go to inside and talk about this." "I ain't going nowhere with you." And he started acting all crazy. And he brought out this crazy Chicago in me. And I grabbed him in kind of a sleeper hold, but I didn't put any pressure. But I had control of him. The whole school stopped. I'm talking about 500 people stopped when they saw me holding that boy. The farmers came out of the field, the teachers, the students came out, everybody came out. And I looked up, I said, "Oh, hell." And they said, "Kwesi," because they call me Kwesi. "Kwesi, let him go." "Okay, I'm not hurting him. He all right." I just take him to the office. I said, No, here, we'll take him. Let him go. And so they let him go. And they took me to one room, took him to another. And I was curious. I said, "Why do you do this? Why do you separate us like this?" And he said, "Out of anger, you may say something, and he hears it and hates you for the rest of his life. We're going to take what you say and translate it into something palatable to his ears, and vice versa. So they go back and forth translating, so that I vent. He understands what my situation was, where I was coming from. He vent, I understand what he was. And his situation was, he and that girl had a big fight in their village that weekend that never got resolved. He was still upset about that. And it was really uncharacteristic of Ghanaians to let anything go unresolved like that. And he was really upset about that. And I just, said, hey, I was really upset seeing you treat this girl this way. So we said, and they put us together. We apologized to each other. I apologized for grabbing him. He apologized for being disrespectful to me. And that would never happen again. And then we had to apologize to the whole school at morning assembly.
How did that feel?
It actually felt good, actually. It felt empowering that I was being held accountable for my actions and to make things right by the whole school. I disrupted the whole school. I caused all kind of commotion. And to be able to apologize to them and let them know that I have learned a lot from you, because you know how to deal with conflict. I'm learning a lot from you. And that really motivates me.
You talked about like the Chicago came out of you, and one of the things that you say a lot in conversations when you're introducing yourself to people is you're from a small African village on the south side of Chicago. Talk about that village, and you said that you were someone who used to fight all the time, right?
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that you talked about, like you're a peacemaker now. That was one of the first 7 things that you identify yourself as. Like, what was that shift for you?
Well, it's interesting. I'm the youngest of 4 in the family. It's a big, large, extended family. And we was in a neighborhood of people who had immigrated from Mississippi to Chicago. And they're all forced to live in the same little geographic area. You had all kind of people. You had rich folks, you had houses, you had kitchenettes, tenements, all kinds of stuff up in there. But all of them had the attitude that we got to protect these kids. Because they had just come from Mississippi where people was getting lynched. And they wanted to take care of these kids. They wanted the kids to get a good education. And we had a lot of good teachers who could have been something else if they had been allowed to. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, since I can't be this engineer or I can't be this stockbroker, I'm going to help my kids be in a position to, when that comes about, they'd be able to get it. They took after us. Now, one of the sports in our neighborhood was boxing. We liked to box. And we watched Sugar Ray Robinson on television and all kinds of boxing. Floyd Patterson and stuff. And we watched these boxing. And groups of kids from different little communities would actually meet in the yard and we would fight. And we'd pair up by size and we would fight. And we were actually too young to hurt each other, and we was fighting by Marcus or Queenberry rule. If I say I quit, it's over. So it wasn't a personal fight; it was a sport fight. So it was fighting. And so I was a little bitty guy, and at school, you had these bullies who thought they could push a little bitty guy around. And my 2 older brothers say, "Hey, if anybody mess with you, hit them first," because that was a no kind of thing. Don't hit first. You're supposed to hit first. We say, no, you hit first and don't stop until we pull you off of them. And that's what I would do. And I got to a point where if I saw somebody bullying somebody else, I was fierce, in stopping it. So I beat up one boy real bad. And I felt so bad. I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. That's crazy. I'm not going to do that. And
what was different about that time than all the others?
I had a ring on my finger, and I hit him, and that ring cut his face and blood. And the thing is, I got off for 2 reasons. One, my mother is who she is. Everybody knew my mother. And they didn't want my mother coming up to school upset about nothing. And they know she'd whoop our butt right there at the school if she was really upset about something. And the other was this kid, everybody saw him start it. Everybody saw him attack me. So it was self-defense. So they let me off on that. So actually about, I'd say maybe a year passed by. I hadn't had a fight in a year. I was doing real good. And it was this beautiful girl named Janet Beck in the class. You know, she was overdeveloped and everything. She was beautiful. And we were in the home ec classroom, and we were making something out of wood. And we were standing in the line. I had my piece of wood. And she came up and pushed me out the line, called me a little shrimp. I said, that's all right. And I did what my grandmother told me. I started counting, walked away. She followed behind me. I'm going to get you after school. You just a shrimp. Yeah. I said, oh, Lord, have mercy. What am I going to do? So I said, okay, I'm going to sneak out the back. So after school, I snuck out the back door. And she and a friend, a couple of friends, were out there waiting for me. I said, oh, hell, what am I going to do? So she started messing with me and talking. She'll beat me up and this. So I turned and walked away. I started stepping. And she came up behind me and scratched me across the front of my face and round by my eye and knocked my glasses and everything off. And I turned around and hit her. And I hit her a couple of times. And then I walked away and I passed by a window and saw the reflection of my face. And the blood streaming all down and stuff. And I went berserk and went back and hit her again. So I came home. My mother saw the scratches and stuff on my face. She said, what happened? I told her. She said, well, you got to deal with that. You got to go back to school tomorrow and deal with that. I said, oh, shoot. So I go back to school. Janet and her father were there. She had a huge black eye. And the father was livid and he wanted to kill me. I said, oh, dang. And they took us to the office, and to her credit, she told the truth. She said, I did everything I could to try to get him to fight me, and he did everything he could not to fight me until I scratched his face. And they saw the scratches on my face, and they said, go to class. They sent me to class. Now, I later found out that she did that because her father had whooped her and told her, something about, better not nobody else touch you, better nobody else hit you. And so she went out to get somebody to hit her. And that was me. So I use that story a lot when I talk about Anger Mountain. Because when she scratched me, I went up that mountain real fast. And I exploded like a volcano. And then when I was coming down, and this happens sometimes when you're coming down, if something happens to remind you of what took you up in the first place, you might go back up there. And I saw that blood and stuff in my face, I went back up there. And you talk about feeling bad. I really felt bad about that. And I never got in a fight again. I got beat up again, but I never got in a fight.
What took you from, stepping away from fighting to actively being a peacemaker?
Well, I think even though when I was a fighter, I was pretty much a peacemaker in the sense that I'd try to break up stuff, and but the bullies was the ones that ticked me off, the bullies. And then once I started, I really got a real big leadership role in the school. I was a patrol boy, so then you see little kids fighting, you break it up and do things with them. Then it was like I was outdoor messenger. I was projector boy. I mean, I didn't even go to class in 8th grade. I was always doing something, painting something, doing something. But my scores were so high. I had like a 11.7 reading score and a 12.9 math score. So it was like, we ain't got to worry about him. And I was teaching other kids all the time. So, and then when I got to high school, the interesting thing about high school was that it was about 50% black and 50% white. And it was a really good school. And the teachers were really good. They kind of believed the community, all the divisions stayed together for 4 years. And depending on the teacher, they may actually have a club or consider themselves a little organization with officers and stuff in the class. And the class actually ran things in a way. And we really were able to get into really good conversations with kids from all over the city, because that's what the school catered to kids from all over the city. And Martin Luther King came through then, and I'd ask my Polish friend. I said, "Hey man, did you throw rocks at Martin Luther King when he came through your neighborhood?" "Oh no, man, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that." I said, "Some of your friends did, didn't they?" Yeah. I said, "If I come in your neighborhood to visit you, and your friends attack me, would you help me? Would you save me?" "No." I said, "No, why not?" "I gotta live there. They'll get me." He said, "What would you do?" I said, "I just tell you, you got brown eyes." He said, "What?" I said, "You got brown eyes." I said, "All of us got somebody in the family that's as light as you with brown eyes, and I can pass you off as a brother." He said, "No kidding." And, he started coming by my house regularly. Wound up going to the graduation dance in our neighborhood. He the only white guy there. And we drinking wine. The white folks was used to drinking beer. So he discovered wine. So he was happy as a lark. So it was, but we got to learn a lot and hear other people's story and the situations that they're in. And then my mother also told me, when I was ready to strap on the gun and start the revolution, she said, "Look, you can go shoot all the white folks you want to, but I'm going to tell you, most of them are all right. Most of them are good people. But they're afraid of the same terrorists that terrorize us." And she told me about the relationship she had in Mississippi and how our uncle killed a white sheriff, and it was white people that saved him from the lynch mob at their own peril. And he wound up going to jail and stayed in jail for 20 some odd years, and he got out and came to Chicago. So those kind of experiences made me realize that there's different point of view to be sought out. And everything is what it looks like. Like another example, it was a Polish guy named Chalupa. And Chalupa had this real bad stutter. And I would help him with his math and stuff. And he introduced me to somebody. "This is Shedrick. This is my boy. And I looked at him like, "Huh?" And I was ready to snap on him. I said, wait a minute. Let me see what he means by that. Let me watch him. Let me observe him. And I heard him introduce a white boy as his boy. "This is my boy too." I said, "Oh, okay." And so I asked him, "What does my boy mean to you?" "You my boy. You my friend. Okay, good. Let me tell you this though. Some people think of boy as being a derogatory term. You see, used to a black person. I'm just gonna tell you that." And he said, "No kidding." I said, "Yeah." I said, so be careful now, because everybody gonna be like me and listen to you. And so learning those different points of views and stuff got me really interested. And when I got into college, going to children's literature classes and stuff, and trying to figure out ways to get kids to read, the fact that I didn't have a lot of conflict resolution skills, formally and stuff, stopped me from wanting to go into a classroom and teach. But once I learned those skills, like a kid come and cuss you out, you say, "Huh?" There's a book called How to Talk to Kids So They Listen, and Listen So They Speak. That was a really good book. Still is a good book. And a kid come and cuss me out, and I say, "Ooh, dang, tell me more about what that is." It's got to be tough for you to come cuss me out, because I love you. And they go, "Huh?" And they tell me what happened to calm down. And I said, "Okay." That's why I realized how important listening to kids is. Getting down on the floor at eye level with them and talking to them. So a lot of the stuff came from books. Teacher effectiveness training, How to Talk to Kids So They Listen So They Speak, Harm Goodness, Parent and Child, Parent and Teen. And then I would apply that with the kids on the street and when I was substitute teaching, and then perfected it more and more.
I know you read it from books, and I think a lot of times when people think about doing this work, they're like, oh, okay, well, I read this book, and then they're afraid to try it. Because sometimes the first time you try something like that, it doesn't go well. Has there ever been an experience like that where there was something that you had learned, you tried, and it blew up in your face?
Oh yeah, a lot of times. A lot of times it blew up in my face. But it's like I pride myself on being kind of a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And being involved in science all the time, it's like you're gonna make a lot of mistakes before you get it right.
Yeah.
Make your first million mistakes as fast as you can. And I grew up around a lot of really nice black men who would tell you that first you don't succeed, try again. These things take practice. And then playing football. My first year playing football, I was terrible. My second year, I was a star. And like my brother and them, they would track that progression. So yeah, your coach told you to start watching pro football and college football on television, but only your position. And that's a whole different thing. The ball's going one way, and I'm looking at what the fullback is doing who don't have the ball, what the linebacker is doing. And it's like, that helped me realize that it takes practice. And the other thing is learning to play the piano. When I learned to play the piano, you start off with a piece of music, you don't know nothing about it. You start practicing it, trying to play it. It's terrible. You keep practicing. And then one day you get in front of a whole bunch of people and do a recital and blank completely out and stand up at the end of it, take a bow, and everybody talk about how wonderful that was because you had internalized it in a football.
Over and over practicing.
Right. In a football.
What was one of those situations? You said there were many. Is there anyone in particular that stands out?
I tend to forget most of the bad ones. What do you think?
I appreciate like that short memory and try again, but then how do you take the learning from that and implement it the next time?
It was interesting. I used to do imagery. I used to imagine myself doing it over again. If I mess up something, I would imagine myself doing it a different way. Now, a lot of that came from my shyness with girls. I would like a girl, and I'd be afraid to approach her or say something to her. And but another girl I didn't like, I would talk to her easily. And I'd go up and say something, and dang, I should have said this another way. And a lot of times I might be very angry at first. I sit down and think about it. Why am I so angry about this? It's not about what she did. It's about what I didn't do. And what should I have done? I start playing the tape a different way. And get it like that. But I'm trying to think what. I tell you one that got me real good. This is Simba Camp. We was up in Strawberry
And this is a summer
Iowa.
camp this is the camp that you've been going to for years every summer, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Over 25 years going every summer. We had these kids. We had a big group of kids, over 100, 120 of them, and it was this boy. What's his name? Oscar, I think his name was. And this boy was seasoned. He was a young. I won't say he always had to protect himself. He was a little guy, and he had to protect himself a lot. He knew how. And he rubbed people the wrong way. So I'm working with him. I'm talking to him. I'm listening to him. And we were out hiking, and he said something to one of the boys, and the boys was going to jump on him and beat him up. And I broke him up and said, come on, Oscar, come with me. And he started screaming and hollering and carrying on. I said, come on, Oscar, come with me. He screaming and hollering. And I grabbed him. I said, come on, boy, come on. And Oscar had these big old brogans that he wore. And he knew exactly what to do. As soon as I grabbed him, he raised his foot up and smashed it down on my shin with these brogans, these metal. and I wanted to kill him. I wanted to kill. I just grabbed him in a better way and drug him away. Cried and hoped, don't kill him, don't kill him. I wanted to kill Oscar so bad. We had to send Oscar home. He was so bad. We had to send him home. And my leg hurt that whole summer.
Looking back on it, what would you have done differently?
I wouldn't have grabbed him. I wouldn't have grabbed him in the first place. Yeah, I wouldn't have grabbed him. And I might have worked to have a better relationship with him before that particular time, before that thing happened.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you said a little bit earlier about, when you have a kid cuss you out, and it's like, man, I know that must be tough for you because you know how much I love you, right? Mm-hmm. You've already built that relationship with that child, and now when you're talking about Oscar doesn't know that you love him, right? I think there's something in there for adults who are working with children. Like, you can't expect them to respect you without the relationship. You can't expect them to know that you care about them without showing it to them over and over. A lot of times I think people are just like, I'm an adult in this space, respect me, right? Or I'm a teacher, automatically, you should know that I care about you. But people don't know that until you show them. And it's not just children, right? That's people in the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that listening to people is so powerful. Just listen to them. And most of us don't take the time to really listen to people. And so Oscar taught me a lesson. He taught me a lesson. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to let that happen again. So one of the things from that point on in camp, my job was to get to know them kids really well. And I started going into cabins and doing activities and different things in the different cabins so they know who I was. And then we actually started doing conflict resolution classes at camp. I started doing that, where they would come to me and I'd teach them active listening, and we do role plays and different stuff about what happened. And I tell them about Oscar. Oscar whooped my tail. So, yeah. And so I've been a conflict resolution man at the camp ever since. And we had a situation. It was a couple of years ago now, where these two boys had a fight in the cabin, and he knocked the boy down on the ground, and he did one of those, like kill punches on him, like you see in the video games. And we took him out the cabin, and we just kind of separated him from that group and just put him in the kitchen, let him clean up dishes a little bit, and we just kind of waited till he kind of relaxed. And I started talking to him, and just got talking about all kind of stuff. And I said, well, what happened in the cabin? And he told me what happened in the cabin, and how it was a definite two-way street. And so we got talking, and I said, well, do you want to talk to this boy about what happened? I said, I'm gonna go talk to him, and if he wants to talk to you, would you want to talk to him? He said, yeah. So I went and talked to the other boy, and they agreed that they wanted to talk, but they wanted a mediator. They wanted somebody there with them. So me and the barber, who's another elder at the camp, who's the head of the camp actually, we sat down with them, and all kind of stuff came out. So they cried and apologized to each other and promised not to do this and how to make things right. So the next question was, well, who else was affected by this? It was like, all the boys in the cabin, in the tribe. So, well, do you think you should talk with them if they want to talk with you? So I went to the tribe, and they said, yeah, and they brought them in, and we had a circle. And I didn't have to say much. I asked a couple of questions, and next thing I knew, they was doing it. They passed that talking piece around talking, and all the stuff came out. the apologies came out, the assumptions that they made came out, and then they invited the boy back into the tribe. And so he came back. Now, this was done in front of a lot of people, actually, a lot of adults. And they saw it. And they were amazed that these boys could sit down here and work out this problem like they did. They were really amazed at it. So it's I really like the idea of taking kids out of their comfort zone, take them someplace else, and then take them out of the clique stay in and form a new team and really get to know each other. Go on ropes courses and stuff, go swimming, do all kind of stuff. And we do this thing called The Man in the Box by Paul Keevil. And he's got a lot of good stuff in there about the power grid, power structure and stuff, how power works. And we use that. We've been using that for the whole time. I had gotten trained in it in New Mexico. The Baba had gotten trained in it someplace else. Both of us from Paul Keevil.
Can you explain what it is a little bit?
It's called, what's it called? Men's Work, I think is the name of the book. And it's a role play of a man and his son. And the son is getting bad grades at school. And the father comes in, really upset, asked the boy to turn off the television. The boy didn't hear him. And he started screaming and yelling and telling the boy what kind of dummy are you? You getting all these bad grades. And, a whole scene. And it ends with him, the boy starts to cry. And it ends with him told him, be a man. And he hits him with the paper. Be a man. And so we debriefed that by asking, the group, what did this man show his son what a man is? And we put it in a box. We draw a box. You got to be strong. You got to be the provider. You can't show no emotions. All this kind of stuff. And so then we start talking about, well, how do people act outside of the box? And you talk about that. And you say, now, in your middle school and stuff, when you see people that act like this outside the box, what do you think of them? What do you call them? And they might call them a sissy or something. And so we go into this whole discussion about how we're socialized to be men. And because we will attribute female sex parts and look at them as being feminine, what do we think of the females in our life then? If you call somebody a pussy, you come out of a pussy. Why would you disrespect a pussy? So we talk about that. And then we have the Women in the Flower, where we do a role play of a man doing a similar thing to his daughter, calling her a hoe and stuff, and she got out and doing all kinds of stuff. And how does that socialize us? And then we get to talking about how this messes up our relationship between the women in our life. And the boys start seeing how they treat their mother, how they treat their sister. And in the Women in the Flower, we have women actually talk about how this affected them, being treated this way by men. And they do a stand-up, they do stand-up and different things. And they do this thing where they, I forget the name, but I know you know it, where people tell you what they need from you as an ally, and you have to repeat back what you heard them say. The whole thing. And we do that with them. And by then, we just softened them up real good. We just got to know each other, trust each other, talk about all this kind of stuff. And then we do what's called a pain fire. We take them deeper into the woods. Dark. Make a big bonfire. We all get around the bonfire. We get them a piece of wood or something. And whoever wants to come and throw their pain in the fire can do that. They testify about it. And that we say that's when Simba comes. That's when the lion comes in, because all kind of stuff come out, all kind of crying and stuff. And another thing, one of the things that really broke me down is this boy got up and he talked about how his father threw his mother out the window. The police came and got him. The ambulance came and got the mother, and he was standing there by himself. And some of the neighbors came and got him. But the pain and stuff that he had experienced was just overwhelming. And it was a lot of kids that had that kind of trauma. And for them to be able to talk about that and be in a situation where they trusted people with that information. And then after the pain fire, we changed the whole village into an African village. We put all kind of African stuff up. They learned in Guzu Saba, the 7 principles, the Kwanzaa and stuff, and how that relates and how we can use that in our everyday life and what kind of things we do. And that's our Camp Win. Every year we do that. I really missed that this year too, because we do that every year. And now we got people who were children when we started, who are adults now. And the guy who runs the camp right now, he actually he would be your boss probably at where you work at. And he donates money and stuff to us, and he donates his time, and he's fantastic person.
Yeah, so I mean, you've done this work in schools, right, where you've in community contexts, in this camp. I think one of the things about like this podcast, this Restorative Justice life, it's in all those parts of your life. But the first things that you identified in your Who Are You was father, grandfather, husband, right? How has this work been a part of your family?
Yeah, we had a round table in our kitchen. My kids, we had a round table. Now my mother was a good listener. So was my father, actually. He's a good listener. And the only thing the only thing my father really might hit you about is lying. So honesty was really valued, being honest. And other than that, he would listen to what you have to say and say, okay, and understand what happened. My mother's biggest thing was her worrying about you. And she thought that whooping you would change your behavior. And this is my I statement introduction all the time. My mother told us to come home when the street lights came on. I must have been about 6 or 7 years old. She tells me to come home. I go to my friend Percy's house after school, and we playing Monopoly. It's the winter time, and it got dark. And I was winning. I had boardwalk, and I just landed on Park Place. I'm good. I look out the window, it's dark. I said, I'm going to get a whooping anyway. I'm going to finish this game. So I get to finishing the game. So on the way home, I said, I better put everything in my...
Hold up. Did you win?
Yeah, I won.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I put everything in my back pocket that I could. I know I'm going to get a whooping. I come in the house. Mama got the rubber hose in her hand. I go, oh, yeah. This is going to be it. And she said, I'm going to whip your butt. I said, yeah. She said, before I whip your butt, I'm going to tell you something. I'd be so worried when you're out there, because all kind of things are happening to young kids out there. And I want you to come home before the street lights come on. And I'm going to whip your butt. Make sure you come home. Well, she whipped my butt, but that didn't change my behavior. What changed my behavior was the fact she told me she worried. It wasn't in my imagination that adults worried about kids. I knew I worried about her. If she went to a church function or something and came home late, I'm at the window praying, please bring my mama home. God, I'll be good next week if you bring my mama home. And because of that, I could empathize with her. And I said to myself, I would not let that happen anymore. And she was 92 when she died. That was the year 2000. And she never had to worry about me needlessly. If I was going to be out all night, I'm going to call and let her know I'm going to be out all night. And I ain't going to be out all night with no bunch of dudes. I'm with a woman, Mama. I'm with a woman. She said, oh, okay, good. So, but that's and we had a lot of people in the neighborhood. I delivered newspapers. And part of good business was the customer's always right. You listen. And yet old people give you advice. We had one guy from the West Indies. He said, y'all walk past me. Y'all didn't say top of the morning to you. You ought to say top of the morning to any adult you see. And so we started saying good morning to all the adults. And they thought that was the most wonderful thing in the world. Oh, these are polite kids. Oh, give them a tip. Give them some. These kids got sense. And I said, oh, you better listen to some of these old folks. And they're always trying to teach you something. Now, every old folks is trying to teach you something. Even the wine heads would pull you aside and say, look at me. You see how I am? Alcohol did this to me. Leave it alone. Don't mess with it. And like the drug addict that robbed me, who showed me the tracks in his arms and told me, you never be free until you can say no to your friends. Because my friends stuck these needles in my arms, not my enemies. And so they were always teaching you some kind of lesson out there on the street. So I picked up a lot like that.
Yeah. What about like as an adult in your family, with your wife, with your kids, with your grandkids? How has this work been a part of that?
Oh, this was fantastic. My wife, it was like my wife was going through some kind of change, and she didn't want to have sex no more. And I said, wait a minute. I said, something ain't right. So I made an appointment to talk to her. I said, I want to make an appointment because we'll talk. I put the flip chart up.
Oh my goodness.
With the
Sorry, you have to walk me through, like, how did you decide to, like, go about making this appointment?
Because that's good conflict resolution. I was having a problem. I had a problem. I was feeling lonely. I wasn't being touched. I hadn't had no sex. What's happening here? So I got the flip chart up and made notes and everything.
So it was, baby, we're having a problem. Can we set aside time a little bit later to have this conversation?
Mm-hmm. We'll make an appointment. Give me an hour, and we're gonna do this. And we talked about it, and it's interesting because she oftentimes wouldn't tell me what was happening, but it would generally come out later. And it was one thing that happened to her. Her father had died, and we were at the table, and the death certificate was in the mail. And she opened the mail and saw the death certificate and started crying. Okay. I've only seen her cry once in 20 years. And I'm wondering, what happened? You know. And I turned to my daughter and said, what happened? What's happened? What happened? What's wrong? And my daughter said, I don't know. So she said she was mad at me for a year because of that. Her perception was I said, what's wrong with her? That was her perception. I said, what? I said, you was mad at me for a year? You treated me like this for a year? And didn't say nothing to me? You know you can smack me across the head and say, fool, what you doing? Don't talk to me like that. You know you can do that. But she was having some medical issues as well, and some other stuff was going on. And her father dying, it was really tough on her. So
have you done that work? How have you done what we're calling restorative justice broadly in your relationship with your children?
Oh yeah. But that book, How to Talk to Kids So You Listen so You Speak, I use that with them. And there's a book called Siblings Without Rivalry by the same people. I use that.
Yeah, what are some of the highlights from there?
Or Siblings Without Rivalry say, when the kids start fighting, go to the bathroom, shut up, let them solve their own problem. And that outside, I said, look, I know y'all love each other. I'm out of here. Y'all can work it out. And had the faith that they would work it out. And then my wife and I agreed that we was going to have a round table in our kitchen. So no power. The kids had just as much power as we have. And every major decision we had to make, the kids could have vetoed it.
Like what?
This, moving to New Mexico, buying a new car. We bought a new car. My wife had wrecked the car, and we had to get a new car. Every time we went to a car dealership, all four of us went, and we checked out the car. The girls would get in the back seat and said, "No, not this one." We said, "Oh, no, this back seat ain't right. This ain't no good." We wouldn't buy it. We got to the Honda place. They got in the back seat of the Honda, say, "This is it. Get this one." We bought it.
How do you differentiate, your role as an adult who knows better, air quotes for the people who are only listening to this, between being an adult who knows a lot of things that young people don't know and still sharing power?
Well, I think one is asking the right questions, because they're a lot smarter than we think they are. And telling them how you feel, because they're sensitive to that. In some cases, they may know it before you do, but tell them how you feel. And then it's amazing, because I tell this story a lot. I'm watching the Super Bowl game. My daughter, she must have been about, she wasn't a good year yet. She comes in the room and she starts blah, 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 blah. And my first thought was, I'm watching the Super Bowl game. And I thought, oh, wait a minute, wait, this is my daughter. I turned off the television, laid down on the floor and got right in her face, and she told me, blah, 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 blah. Thanks, Dad. Hugs me and run off. I don't know a damn thing she said. I don't know what she said. But I sure tried to listen to what she said. I got so bad now, I try to listen to what a baby's crying means to him. I try to listen. That's a pain sound. That's an uncomfortable sound. That's a hungry sound. I try to hear that. But the thing is, one really listening, they come up with solutions that's sometimes just as good or better than the ones that I would have told them. And when they say it, they say, "Oh, thank you, Dad. You're a genius." "Oh, thank you. And then the other part is what I call the OG call. I tell them, "Look, I'm making this call. This comes from age and experience. You gonna do this for me." OG call. Don't do that often.
How do you decide when it's an OG call?
It's really important. It might be life or death, or really some, like one walking to school. It was one would walk 3 miles, the other would walk 2 miles to school. I said, "Yeah, that's you walking." I said, "You can walk. You got good legs. You're healthy. You walking to school. That's no problem." So they walked to school. Wasn't no problem. And then jumping double dutch. That was one. We were living in Durham, North Carolina, and there was a program. We was living in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and in Durham, North Carolina, they had a program called the Jumping Bulldogs. And they performed this stuff at Duke games and all kinds of stuff. Really fantastic. And I saw them, and they were giving lessons. They had workshops, a week-long workshop. And I said, "This is an OG call." So what, Dad? I say, 2 black girls supposed to know how to jump double dutch. That's it. You're going to learn how to jump double dutch and jump rope. And I took them to Durham for a week. I learned as much rope jumping as they did. But they loved it. They were so glad that I do that. So I didn't make too many of those.
When did you first learn the word restorative justice?
I think it was when I got here to Chicago. They started talking about restorative justice because there's always conflict resolution before. In New Mexico, I was doing all kind of workshops. It was called conflict resolution. I got
When
here.
was it then you came back to Chicago?
2000.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a thing up in Chicago State. Pam and Aura and Cheryl
Mm-hmm.
at the Chicago State. And I'm nosy, so I had to go see what this is, what they're talking about. And I wound up in a circle with Pam. And I saw this, and I'm thinking, this ain't nothing new. This circle thing ain't nothing new. This ain't no big deal. I've been doing this for years. This Outward Bound, Boy Scouts, we do this. And with indigenous people, I did mediations with indigenous people. We actually did circle. And so I said, that ain't no big deal. But then they started talking about restorative justice and then how to use the circles. So I thought, I need to get trained in this. And I talked to Aura. And I said, but I ain't got no money. She said, well, come on anyway. And she took me into a class and took that class. I said, oh. And I was kind of resistant in a way. All this ritual and stuff. Now, the main thing I like is the mindfulness and the meditation. So I always did that with kids. I think they really need that. So I really like that part. But, the centerpiece and all that stuff, I said, that ain't necessary. And even getting in a circle, you ain't got to get in a circle. Then I thought, no, there's a real benefit to doing it this way. Indigenous people did. Outward Bound, we did it around campfire all the time. Boy Scouts do it. I said, okay. And I started more and more. And then met Kate Prentice. In the Blue Book, when I started going through the Blue Book, it's like, they got it.
You're talking circle forward, right?
Circle forward. I was looking through that. I said, some deep stuff. I like this. In all different circles and stuff. And after we got trained, there was a situation where a kid got killed at the playground, and they asked us to all come over and do a circle with the kids. And that was so powerful and real therapeutic.
You're talking about at Fanger?
No. This was elementary school.
Oh, okay.
And they sent word out for everybody, anybody that could come and do this. And I went and I circled around about 8 kids. And some of the kids, they were real close to the person who got shot. And so it was powerful. And it's like, we really do need to take a whole lot more time to help these kids deal with this stuff. Instead of trying to rush through math and try to get them to do calculus by the time they're in 9th grade. It's like, I took a whole lot of calculus and I ain't used it on the job yet.
I stopped at pre-cal. That was enough for me. And haven't used a bit of it.
They need finance. They need to know how the rule of 72 and all that kind of stuff, how money works, and how they can not borrow so much money and get trapped like they're trapping kids now. They're trapping kids like crazy now.
Yeah. So in 2000, that's when you started to learn about circles and the word restorative justice through the framework of, what Kay Prentice has taught from Indigenous folks in Northern Canada. What are you doing now? You're still in Chicago. You're still doing this work. How is that happening for you?
That's fascinating. I'm so sorry you left.
Oh man.
It's an interesting situation right now because it's so much in flux.
So for context, for people who are listening who don't know, you still work at this organization called Alternatives.
I'm still at Alternatives.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of a rogue at Alternatives.
Yes, you are.
They don't know what to do with me at Alternatives. So they have what they used to call them Shedrick schools.
What's a Shedrick school?
That's a school they have a whole lot of trouble, and they want me to come in there and help them, help the staff, help the kids, whatever. And I go and ask them what you need, and I try to give them what they need. And it's it's awesome because a lot of times just having a black male in the building is helpful. And to blow the stereotype that they might have. They come see me juggling like I be juggling, doing that kind of crazy. They ain't seen too many black men do that kind of stuff. And they sit down and talk to me, and I'm listening to them talk about all kind of stuff, and it makes a big difference. A lot of times the teachers need support, and I would
say a lot of the times.
Well, all the time, really. And
Yeah.
I would get the principal to let me do grade level meetings, and out of the blue book, circle forward. I think I forget what chapter it is, chapter 2 something, 2:1 or something. They got an introducing circles to the staff, or restorative justice to the staff, and I would do that with them. They get hooked on the meditation. For somebody to just say, close your eyes and relax for a second. Just like, yeah, we need that. And then they ready to listen. They say, oh, this wasn't nothing like I thought it was going to be. I got to know other teachers and why they came into teaching and their experience, because they don't have time to talk to each other like that.
Right.
And so, but the biggest problem is for the principal to allow me to keep doing that, because they got this pacing and this time constraint on them all the time.
Right. I think I'm thinking back to the kids that you were working with, in North Carolina or in Ghana or in Pakistan. You have to build the relationship first before you can really teach them, right? When we're doing restorative justice work with adults, we have to help them build the relationships to help them feel the work before we can teach them, oh, this is what a restorative conversation XYZ is. Like, that stuff is like pretty easy to get once you're in good relationship with people.
Mm-hmm. But often they're not given the time to get this good relationship. It's like, I used to take 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
In every class I taught, I'd take 2 weeks. When I got to Chicago, I did it at Inglewood High School. I took 2 weeks. We would get a big circle every Wednesday and have a class meeting. Well, one of the kids told on me. Assistant principal came up there and told me, I can't do that. I said, what you talking about? You can't do that. It didn't matter that I was an old teacher, experienced, and know what I'm doing. You can't do that. So I did it anyway, but they didn't like it. And then I did something really crazy. I had a poet, a rapper, that we use at camp all the time. He lives in Milwaukee now. To come to my class and teach them rap the way he did at camp. And this guy was awesome. He's awesome. And I'm teaching a math class, and we doing rapping. I said, well, everything's mathematics. Everything's mathematics. The English teacher brought her honors class into that class to be involved in this. She was the best thing that she said. She just been around a long time. Oh, they hated that. Then I got in with the football team and was tutoring the football team after school and stuff. And I would go to the games and I'd play my drum. It seemed like I played my drum, they scored a touchdown. They was happy. And I was there one day with my daughter. I was playing the drum, and the principal was there. And the principal looked up to me, and my daughter said, "You done." I came to work, and they told me I was through. I said, "What do you mean?" Well, we got too many math teachers, and one, my pay scale was too high. Two, I was uncontrollable. I was just crazy. And luckily for me, though, it was a girl who used to come and curse me out regularly in one of my classes, and I would really listen to her. And the schools didn't like this. The principals and stuff didn't like this. They said, "You're not teaching when you actually listen to a student." I said, "I'm teaching them something really important: how to deal with people who have a difficult time." And so they would watch me deal with this girl. And this girl would come in and she'd cuss me out something terrible, and I'd give her that. Well, let me have it. I can take it. Go ahead, tell me. And she'd tell me, and then she'd cry, and then she'd hug me and say, "Can I go see Miss Brown?" I said, "Yes, of course you can go see Miss Brown." Miss Brown was the dean of girls. So she'd go out and see Miss Brown. After she did that a few times, Miss Brown came up and thanked me. Because this girl had been sexually abused by fathers and uncles and stuff. And there was days she came in where she hated men.
Mm-hmm.
And for her to be able to come in and vent at me was really good for her. That I didn't, try to punish her or try to attack back anything. That I would just listen to her. And for her to be listened to was really therapeutic for her. And Ms. Brown really appreciated it. So when they let me go, Ms. Brown was at the office waiting for me to take me to another school that she had gotten a job as an assistant principal to put me to work at that school. See, and they let me do my thing. I even wrote the curriculum for the class in that one. She let me do my thing. And then I was going to quit teaching because I really didn't like the way kids are treated in the schools and everything. And they came and got me to come to Robeson to teach it because there's a new program. They said, "Oh, you like this new program? It's got the same attitude and thinking that you have, and you can do it." So I went there, but they reneged on it. They didn't do what they said they was going to do. So I left and went to elementary school, Harvard Elementary School, which is right down the street, and my sister taught there, and I taught a third grade class. And it was brutal. Them kids would come to class bloody in the morning, fighting in the line and stuff.
Mm.
So they would throw things. If I turned my head, they'd throw nuts and bolts and all kind of stuff at each other. They hit somebody, the person get hit and run back and start beating on whoever they thought threw it. So I said, "Oh, this is gonna be interesting. This is going to be fantastic here." So I put them in a circle, or a semicircle, and we get into circles real easily. And I could walk around and see who had the nuts and bolts in their desks and take it out. They was able to see each other, and I started doing team building stuff, and things was getting better. I brought a humidifier and put in the room because it was so dry and stuff in the room. And I bought bottled water all the time. And so my kids drank a lot of water, so they had to pee a lot, which they're supposed to do. But they was only supposed to go to the bathroom once in the morning and once in the afternoon. My kids was going 2 and 3 times. Man, go to the bathroom, you gotta go. Oh, that made the principal mad. She was mad at me. And she came in one day, told me that I could not have my kids seated that way. The district, what's the name, said you got to put them in groups. You got to do this and that. I said, groups. Boom, they got in the groups. I said, that's all I got to do. Oh, no, she gave me holy hell. I said, dang. I said, look, I'm not going to let, if you're going to, I'm not going to be a part of hurting the kids. So I at the end of the semester, I said, I'm not coming back. I left. But I went to the, what's it called, the parent conference thing. Mm-hmm. And I went there because this head guy from the district was going to be there. And so I talked to him. He said, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't micromanage a teacher like that. He said, I've heard that from other teachers too. And that principal got fired. She was gone. So then I started my own business of in Patapo, Peacemaker, and I would go around and get business. Most of it was charter schools, and then I was working with Black Star Project, and this is phenomenal because they had what's called Parent University, and I would go and teach conflict resolution with the Parent University and how to help your kids with math and science. And the conflict resolution one was the most popular, but they cut the time down. They said like 2 hours. They cut it down to like an hour, so that made it a little more difficult. And they had a summer program and they had a tutoring program, and they asked me to train the tutors for this program. So I did what I usually do. It's a game called Four of a Kind, where I put them in groups of four. They get to know each other. They name themselves. And anytime I want them to reflect it, they have to go to their groups and reflect and talk about it and report out. And when we played Can We Talk Baseball, that was the groups that they were in. We played Can We Talk Baseball. And Kirsten, you know Kirsten.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Well, Kirsten was the program director at Black Star. So I was like working under her, and she would be at these trainings and stuff, and she was really impressed by it. And she would, can I improve that drawing for you? And like my boxes and stuff, she would improve and all that stuff. And we would, she called me one time and say, they got a position up here at Alternatives, because she had left and went to Alternatives. And she said, they got a position up here at Alternatives that I think would be perfect for you. I said, oh. So I applied for it. But they gave it to Marshawn. Marshawn Ali, they gave it to him.
Yeah, I'm wearing his shirt right now, actually.
Yeah, Crime Pays, yeah. And so they gave it to him. So I was all right with that. And they asked me about coaching. Now, at that time, coaching was really loose. You know, we didn't have the initial meetings. The initial meeting was me going in and talking to the person, talking to the principal, and working things out with the dean and doing all kind of stuff. And I was walking. Basically, it was a self-supervised kind of a thing. And at the end of each month, you had to get the principal to sign this thing that said you had been there. How many hours you'd been there. And that's how they paid us. And I was at DuSable. Mm-hmm. And I had a good time there. And then I went to several other schools. I've been to at least 20 different schools that I've been to. And but they got tighter and tighter and tighter, and more supervision, to the point where it's like, dang. And it's like, you know the feeling. You're supposed to have a meeting with somebody and they don't show up. It's like, dang. Now what do I do? I got to wait for this person for an hour. You know, so whatever. Now I would go do something. I go grab a kid in the hallway. What you doing out here in the hallway? You in trouble? Tell me about the trouble you in. And next thing you know, they throwing paper airplanes down the hall. I just got a book on paper airplanes today, too, come to think about it. You really helped me a lot. No joke, because when I saw at the circle for circle keepers, it's like, oh, hell, this stuff works. This could work. Might work better in some instances, because it's like, I don't have to go nowhere. You know, I can sit here. I don't even have to put pants on even. Yeah. And so it may be easier to get.
I'm not going to ask you if you're wearing pants now.
I got pants on. They're short pants. but you get these, you know, you can get 8 or 10 people around real easily and do a 90-minute circle, and it's less time, you know, for me to go someplace to an hour, do the circle, and come back. And you don't get paid for the transportation, so just do it. And so I did a circle today.
Yeah, what have you found that's been able to translate, and then what are you still missing?
Well, being in the room with people, I think really is beneficial. But I think one of the things you can still see the people's faces and hear their tone of voice and stuff like that. And the meditation part, I think, is pretty easy. But actually the before and after. Before the circle, we talking, doing stuff, eating. You know, the circle keeper was it's precious blood. We talking, having a good time. They had to ring the bell several times, get us to come in. Come on, stuff. Then you go into the circle, having a good time. Then after the circle, you're talking and you're walking with people and going back and you're making connections and making plans and stuff, all kind of stuff. So I miss stuff like that. Like even now, like what's that old lady name who wore purple all the time?
Oh, Mama June.
Mama June. Like I miss Mama June. To see Mama June. Being in her presence is fantastic. I don't know if that would translate so well over Zoom, or she might have been able to handle the Zoom thing. That's the one piece, I think, because that before and after is I think is effective. It really helps. And people can make personal connections with people, things like that. But I think the circle forward, I think, works well with the Zoom.
Yeah, I think like when you know how to do a circle, right, and how to do it well, you're able to translate it to whatever medium. Because like when we do a circle at Circle for Circle Keepers at Precious Blood, that's different from what we do at schools. It's different from what you do with like, students versus staff, right? You have to make it work in whatever context you're in, but there are just certain principles that like how to show up and how to create the space. What are the most important pieces of that for you?
Say that again. What's the most important piece?
What's the most important thing to do when you're creating that space for people, whatever context you're in?
To me, the meditation. The meditation and the opening. I think those, and opening and close. I think that's real important to set things up, to get people ready. And then the check-in, that's a real check-in, like, how you feeling, and is there anything you want to share that people need to know? And not worry so much about, am I going to make it through this whole circle thing? If I got an hour, if it takes me 45 minutes for people to get comfortable knowing each other and feeling good about that, okay, the other 15 minutes, we could ask a couple of questions, so it'll work out all right. And
the relationship building piece, making people feel safe in the space, is the work, right? That's not the pre-work. That is the essential part of it.
That's the work. That's half the circle on that thing. That's half of it, at least. Getting acquainted, building relationships, and the rest. Because that spills over into the after and the before. When people leave, if they feel they're connected with somebody, they may ask them an additional question after they leave, or they walk into the bus stop, or getting in the car. Can I get a ride with you? Oh yeah. And in the ride, you're talking about all kind of stuff that might have come up in the circle. See, so that relationship building is powerful.
But I do have a couple quick questions that I want you just to respond to. The first thing that comes to your mind as we start to close out. You ready?
Ready.
What is restorative justice?
To me, restoring a relationship that has been broken. And it's in patapo. That's what patapo means, the peacemaker. It's a Ghanaian phrase, and it's a Dinka symbol. And and the symbol represents the knot of a relationship that has been broken and then tied back together again.
What is one place where you wish people knew this work?
First of all, people knew this work?
Knew this work. Or were doing this work, yeah.
The juvenile justice system, the police, and the family.
Yeah.
Family.
Families. I mean, everywhere, right?
But if we thought in terms of restorative justice as far as our justice system is concerned, we wouldn't have so many jails. We wouldn't be spending so much money on keeping people locked up. Because the first time they make a mistake, they have a chance to make things right. And I think there's a lot of self-satisfaction in making things right. You make a mistake, but when you fix it up, it's like, oh man, it makes you feel good.
Yeah. If you could sit in circle with 4 people, who are they, and what would you talk about?
Ooh, wow. 4 people. It might be my family, my 2 daughters and my wife.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What would you talk about?
We just talk about probably the grandkids. Matter of fact, we do that every Sunday. We could go to Messenger. And I had to stop myself from facilitating. My wife does a good job of facilitating. We talk about it. Get the kids on there. Get the effects. We like Messenger because you do the effects. I can become a unicorn.
Yeah, definitely. Circles with filters. That's what they're missing. What is one thing you want everyone listening to this to know?
I want people to one, learn to take care of themselves. Okay? How to breathe, how to relax, so that when things come at you, you can take that breath and say, okay, I can listen to this and not get defensive. And I think we so stressed out, we don't know how to do the basic things. Breathing like the 4-7-8 breath, things like that. Or just counting your breaths, counting to 10, what that'll do for you. And I really think that if we teach our kids this and learn this ourselves, we won't need marijuana. We won't need all these different drugs to make ourselves feel good. I can make myself feel good anytime I want to, and I feel good most of the time. If somebody offered me a joint, it's like, that's gonna sink my boat. I'm doing good. I'm all right. I don't need that. See. So.
Yeah. And I think finally, where can people support the work that you're doing, or what are if you were to point people in a direction to support your work, how would you ask them to do that?
They could give some money to alternatives. Actually, just give some money, some time to alternatives, and don't put any shackles on the money, so that they can do what they need to do. And
alternatives and the Simba camp, right?
Oh yes. Give us $1 million so we could build a camp, and we could bring maybe 1,000 kids a year up in there. That would be fantastic. I'm so glad you did, because I don't know why I talk about everything.
I thought for sure that's what you were gonna say.
Yeah, Simba, yes, Simba and Simsa. It's referred to as rescue, release, and restore. Yeah.
We'll put links to that in the description of wherever that you're listening to this. I want to thank you, Shedrick, so much for spending your evening sharing your story, sharing wisdom with us. You and we have conversations often, but maybe we'll record another one of these for everybody else to benefit from as well. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care, and we'll talk to you next week. Like what you heard? Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast on whatever platform you're using right now. It really helps us further amplify this work. You can also support us by following us on our social platforms, signing up for our email list, rocking our new merch, joining our Patreon, or signing up for a workshop. So many options! Links to everything in the show notes and on our website, amplifyrj.com. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.